So they're wearing what I would consider were sort of Chairman Mao era suits.
Yes.
And they've got the cap on and they've got a cigarette.
Yep.
But they've still got an electric vehicle. Still, that really took them out. I saw quite a few of them, and I went, look at you, old dude, fantastic. You've still got the cigarette going. Yesterday I saw 3 seals, in a day's driving on British motorways. I saw one in the middle of Wales.
Yeah.
That's a BYD seal. Oh my God.
And if I went into a Xiaomi shop today and their factory's at full capacity, they're producing about 30,000 cars per month.
Wow.
I would have to wait a year before I could get my car.
大家好，今天要分享的是2位英国汽车博主对话的节选。这场对话可以说是一扇透视中国发展的窗口。从上海街头车水马龙却能听见鸟鸣的电动化图景，到宁德时代钠离子电池的技术突破，从纬度极越的黯然退场，到小鹏小米的逆势爆发，从福特高管倾覆中国后的战略转向，到比亚迪在巴西超越通用的市场奇迹。这场对话不仅洋溢着对中国基础设施与产业活力的惊叹，更揭示了一个核心命题：在全球汽车产业100年变革中，中国正以残酷洗牌与技术破壁双轮驱动，完成从追随者到定义者的身份跃迁。我们来看看他们是怎么说的。
So, I mean, because I've been trying not to talk about China too much to people here, but every now and then, or, if people are foolish enough to ask me how did you get on, I do go on about it a lot. But I mean, it was, out of all the countries I've been to in the world, I had so many, prejudices, I suppose. I had so many, because of my generation, and we heard about the Cultural Revolution and the big, all those things. It was just a thing. It was a story. Then to suddenly turn up at this incredibly modern country with the vastest buildings, the amazing, all the infrastructure, just the physical infrastructure. And to be fair, I only saw Shanghai. And where was the other town we went to on the train? Was that Hangzhou or?
Hangzhou, yeah.
Hangzhou. So I didn't see like the whole of China, but it was genuinely remarkable experience to go there. And it was made much easier, thankfully, having you there to guide me. I think even though once you've set it up, going through turnstiles at a train station is very simple. If you don't know what you're doing...
You're in all sorts of trouble. You end up in Inner Mongolia or somewhere. I think I'm obviously very happy that you guys got out here, because I think we've always said, all of us have said, that for people to understand China a bit more, and especially in the early days when we started doing this and showing videos from China, people were very much like, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, this is great, this is very nice, great to see what China is really like. But there was a contingent of people who were like, more negative comments. But I think in the last few years, we've seen those kind of comments disappear as, I guess, China becomes more mainstream, more people visit, and more people actually understand that what they've managed to do here is it's just remarkable. Growth of these mega cities, and everything's clean and the infrastructure works, and so I'm glad you guys got here and you enjoyed it and you got back safely as well.
It was amazing. It was truly amazing. And actually, one fact I just read the last week was that China, just the rate of change and the scale of change. I think those are the two things that stayed with me. Was what had happened even in the last 10 years there. So since you've been living there, it's been transformed. But one of the things that happened last year was, last year in China, they installed more solar than America has in total ever. And America is not sluggish when it comes to solar. They've been installing it for years. It's not like they've been very, very keen to do it. But in 1 year, they installed more than America ever has, and I can't remember it's over 1,000 gigawatts of solar now in China. It's just mind-boggling.
It is, isn't it? And we've seen this in multiple industries, that when China really puts its mind to doing something, they set to achieve it within 10 or 15 years. So the bullet train that you went on, how long ago? Like 10 years ago, that didn't, or 12 years ago, that didn't really exist.
Right.
Now it's the largest high-speed rail network in the world, of course.
Yes.
The electric car industry, everything really.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. And I think for me, it's really nice to get your perspective, because I've been here, and when you're in somewhere, you don't see that much change. But then you get people come here and they say, "Oh wow, okay, this has changed because of this," and so it's really great to get outsiders' perspective into China.
Because I think one of the things that has stayed with me, a memory that has very clearly stayed with me, is Chinese guys about my age, so the older generation, who generally seem to have a cigarette hanging from their mouth.
Yes.
On the kind of battered old tricycles that would clearly have had a 2-stroke engine on, but they've been converted to electric. But they're still the noisiest electric vehicles on the roads there, because they're kind of clanking and grinding, and there's old chains rattling around them, and they've usually got a load of old metal,
that's right,
scrap metal on the back. But I love that. So they're wearing what I would consider were sort of Chairman Mao era suits.
Yes.
And they've got the cap on, and they've got a cigarette.
Yeah.
But they've still got an electric vehicle. Still, that really took me. I saw quite a few of them, and I went, "Look at you, old dude, fantastic! You've still got the cigarette going."
I mean, it's funny, they're moving with the time in one area of their life, right, with their transport, but in other areas they're still sticking to what they know, right?
Yes, yeah. No, that was extraordinary. But the train, I think the train stuck with me. The scooters, walking down a busy central in a massive city, down a really busy central street with loads of traffic and loads of scooters, and you could hear bird song and people's footsteps.
Yeah,
it's uncanny, isn't it? I mean,
we stood outside the hotel and there was no sound or smell, and you guys like, this is so strange. We can hear everything. We can hear the birds. You can hear the river nearby, and this is in the middle of Shanghai. And
also the other one that I cannot believe, but I've had to look at video footage that we shot there, was the flowers in flower boxes along the highways. And you go, well, you can imagine it being a little bit near a posh building or near a government house. There might be a bit of that, but this went on for hundreds of miles. Who's gardening it? Who's planting it and looking after it? I mean, it was really well maintained. Miles and miles of beautiful flowers. It was that was extraordinary.
It was, wasn't it? And I think that's why I think it's important we went out to the countryside of China as well, just to see what the other side. But even there, the roads were amazing. There was street lights everywhere. 5G was everywhere.
Yes,
food was great. So because it's quite easy to get kind of a Shanghai goggles on you and think,
I'm sure if you stay in the city,
like all of China's like this. But I think we got to Hangzhou, we got out to the countryside, and I think you can see a little bit of a different perspective as well.
No, it was that was a lovely moment, like looking up at terraced farming, up a mountain with bamboo forests all around, and then I could actually hear people chatting with each other up on the farm, and you're going, that's very different. That's not like Shanghai. That's scruffy people growing vegetables up on a hill.
So
amazing.
What have you been telling people? What's been your, like, they say, "Oh, Robert, you've been to China. What was it like?" What have you been replying? What have you been saying?
I mean, it is generally in the kind of realm that we talk about, obviously the traffic, the shift in that stuff. I mean, I did talk about CATL, which we must talk about, amazing, going to see them and their next generation of batteries, and the fact that they must have made their announcement about the $10 battery. They must have known about that when we saw them, because they didn't mention it then.
No, they didn't.
Because that's quite a big thing. But anyway, we can talk about that in a minute. But, I think the general attitude I've got from, and this is just a random selection of people that I've met since I've been back, it's quite a positive response to that. They're quite pleased to hear that. And I think what's shifted globally in the consciousness of the world's population outside of the USA is that the USA was deemed certainly by European countries, particularly by the UK, as a friendly ally, supportive country that would stand up for us against, friend or foe. That is so changed, and it's been a real trauma, particularly in Europe. I think Europe has depended on the USA since World War II, and suddenly China looks kind of attractive.
Yes,
they're very stable. They don't go crazy. They've not invaded hundreds of other countries in the last 100 years. I mean, that may change. I'm not saying, but as a general rule, you look at China and go, well, they're not. They're making really good cars and nice. They've got really good trains.
Huge progress with solar and wind and everything, right? So,
it's a complicated political shift that we're going through.
Very much so.
But anyway, I mean, I would say it was a generally positive experience for me, and quite an interestingly positive response from people I've spoken to.
That's
and
good.
I'm actually going to an afternoon at home, as it's called amongst more posher members of society, in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm really intrigued to meet them because they are sort of very traditional, conservative people, in a small C conservative in a good way, but very traditional. And I'm intrigued to know. And also, two of them are ex-military, so I'm wondering.
Okay,
I do want to ask them about it because,
that'd be interesting.
It might have a different perspective. I don't know, but
very much so.
But there's a lot of things. Can we start with CATL because that was a remarkable visit, and what I think there was nothing we could have done about it. What caught people's imagination was us driving around in the ridiculous
skateboard chassis.
The skateboard chassis, which was great, but in a sense, what they're actually doing there is remarkable. You've presumably heard the news about the $10 battery, the sodium battery.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you don't think. A battery company doesn't sound very interesting, right? No. You're like, oh, batteries, okay, fine. They do one thing.
Yeah.
But what CATL are doing is so many things in so many different areas. So building their own skateboard chassis, for example, is insane. So they're almost becoming their own kind of manufacturer. Then they've got these wild breakthroughs with batteries. So I remember a few months ago we saw I'm going to get all my facts mixed up, but you remember seeing at the CATL stand they had the 24 volt battery for trucks, instead of using the old lead acid battery for trucks, which lasted a huge amount of time longer, etc., etc. Then they've also got the super fast charging, and then now it's all about sodium ion, which we've been hearing about for a long time, very long time, and now they're offering it and saying, well, this is going to be the cheapest battery you can get, and is going to decrease the price of cars by, well, who knows, 30% maybe?
Yeah.
I think it's
for sort of massive storage for multi-gigawatt batteries suddenly become economically plausible because they're not $700 million, which they would have been a few years ago. There might be $1 million for a massive battery array that would power a city. It's that kind of that. It's just absolutely groundbreaking, and also it's made of salt.
Yes,
effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, one of the most abundant materials on Earth. Easily available anywhere. It doesn't have to really be mined.
Yes,
like some of the other materials. So, I think and I think what the whole company are doing is that it's very engineering focused, but for the good of everyone. Obviously, they want to make money, but I think I just love CATL.
对话中，罗伯特对上海的2个细节记忆深刻：一是繁华市中心听不到汽车噪音，只闻鸟鸣与脚步声；二是老一辈人骑着改装电动3轮车穿梭街巷。这2个看似无关的场景，恰恰折射出中国汽车电动化的独特路径。它不是精英阶层的小众尝鲜，而是覆盖全民的基础设施及变革。在许多国家，电动化仍停留在新车销售数据层面，而中国已将其融入城市机理。罗伯特提到的静音接头，背后是上海新能源汽车保有量超150万辆，公共充电设施覆盖率达 98% 的产业支撑。老一辈人骑的改装电动车，则印证了中国市场对电动化的包容与适配。无论是高端智能汽车，还是民生领域的低速电动车，都在政策引导与市场需求中找到生存空间。这种自上而下规划加自下而上适配的模式，让中国电动化进程避开了许多国家基础设施滞后于车辆销售的困境，为汽车产业升级奠定了最广泛的用户基础。
But let's move on, because there's things that there's on my list of topics. There's Windrose trucks. I've never even heard of Windrose trucks, so I don't know what that is. But they're in trouble. Are they? What? That's a Chinese company.
So yeah, it's kind of I think it's run by a Chinese guy who set it up, and they've set up this like a Tesla Semi kind of alternative, and they've taken it to New Zealand and tested it. I think Roger Atkins has met them and tested it. Gavin Shoebridge in New Zealand has met them and tested it.
I haven't seen that. Okay.
And making a huge splash because they were coming onto the market very quickly. I think within, I'm going to get all my dates wrong, but within like 2 years, they brought a product from concept to market.
Wow.
I think it was cheaper than the Tesla Semi, and they were getting orders. But they've basically announced, I think a few days ago, that they're allegedly insolvent. So we don't really know yet, but apparently they've basically gone bankrupt. They've run out of money. This is very typical, I think, of the industry at the moment. There's a lot of hot money, or was a lot of hot money going into EVs and EV development, new companies, but they're failing very quickly now. And we're starting to see a bit of a contagion, I think, throughout the industry, where there's companies that are going under because they don't have enough sales, they don't have enough investment. So I think this year we've already seen one of Geely's brands, Jidu, which was like the joint venture with Baidu, which is the Google of China. They had like a self-driving robo-car. Just wasn't that popular, didn't sell particularly well. And so Geely basically closed them down. And so I think Windrose is kind of one in a long list of companies that are probably about to collapse, because I think the pressure now is so high, especially in China. Like, people have bought their EVs maybe a few years ago, last year. They don't need another new EV yet.
No, they last quite a long time. That's one of the problems.
And they don't really go wrong. That's the problem. No. Yeah. So I think, everyone's feeling the pain. Even BYD themselves, I think, they're facing headwinds. They're not struggling, obviously. They're still selling huge amounts of cars. But even I think that they're seeing a bit of a slowdown. So there's a big worry about what's coming. And I think Windrose is kind of the tip of the iceberg. So that's why they're expanding so much into overseas markets, Middle East especially, Europe, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. That's why we're seeing such a big push from these automakers, with amazing finance discounts. I think in the UK, BYD have said, we'll match the government grant, right? And just take that off.
It's extraordinary. Straight, they said that on day one. Everyone else was reeling, going, what do we do? Well, it's a lot cheaper. We'll take $7,000 off it, or whatever. It's like $3,000 off it. Going, my goodness, that happened so quickly. But I think the thing we've got to remind ourselves is that, say, 25 years ago, 90% of the car companies that we can now talk about didn't exist.
No.
They're all really new. And, it was, I think that we've seen those kind of explosive bubbles in technology in the past. Well, in fact, when cars first started, the amount of car company names, I remember Googling it once, there was about 600 names of American car companies that were functioning about 1910. Well, I've heard of probably 5 of them. So 99% of them went under. That was which I think we're going to see something like it's kind of inevitable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think it's, and people say, legacy brands are just going to go under. No, it's not. I mean, no,
they're not. No.
There's going to be a lot of Chinese brands going under in the next, I don't know, maybe 6 months potentially. Having spoken to a few in the last few weeks, I know that, cash is very tight. A lot of automakers have made people redundant. Sales, even though they're still reasonable, they're just burning cash. They can't keep up. And I think we're reaching that point now, saturation point, whatever it might be, where we're going to start seeing all of a sudden probably a lot of companies going under, being taken over, being consolidated. And this is probably when we'll see maybe some overseas Western OEMs either taking over these Chinese companies or the other way around. I think everything is up for grabs, and this is really about to be the wild season of EVs, I guess.
I mean, it is incredible how it feels like the technology is rumbling on regardless of what any individual political leader might say in any particular country. I mean, what Ford have just announced with their next generation of and that is so inspired from Ford executives and just chief technology officers going to China going, oh my God, look what they're doing. I think we might need to do something about this,
Yes.
And their announcements recently, are extraordinary. What the level of investment, the scale of investment that Ford, you just think, well, that is, if you want to talk about legacy, that's probably as much legacy as you can poke a stick at. They've been around quite a long time.
And I think what Ford are doing is remarkable. I think they're a little bit slow.
Yes.
So if Ford can, borrow some of that magic, then there's still everything to play for. It's not over. It's not going to become the China show in a few years' time.
No.
People still want good quality cars from well-known brands that have been around for a long time. I think if Ford can get it right, and they've been known to get it right in the past, then they should stand in good stead in the future.
But I mean, I think on the flip side of that, we can't underestimate the impact that the Chinese brands have had. I mean, I'm aware of it in Europe and the UK, and it is enormous. And it's the fact that, I've blabbed about it for years, but now people that aren't the least bit interested in cars or know nothing about it. I mean, one of them's done it wrong. Do you know much about those BDY cars? But the fact that that's leaked in, this was someone that's not the slightest bit knowledgeable about cars. I always think sensible. Why should they know? But they've heard that there's this car company that is coming, that are selling cars here that people are buying, and starting to see them. Yesterday, I saw 3 seals, in a day's driving on British motorways. I saw one in the middle of Wales. Yeah. That's a BYD seal. Oh my God! Like a normal person, not a journalist with a camera stuck in the car, just a person going somewhere. So I think they've arrived definitely here. Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't around during the 80s when the Japanese automakers really came in a big way. And in the 90s, I didn't really notice when the Korean car makers came in a big way. But it's history repeating itself. And
it's very similar,
hopefully what it does, and what it did before, was spur on the other automakers to actually innovate a bit more, come up with better cars. It's simple. If you want to compete, then, make a better car. It's really, really straightforward.
But then you've been in the P7, the XPeng, the Xiaopeng P7.
Yes.
Is that...
I'm technically at time of recording, I'm still under embargo. I can talk about it. I just don't think I can talk about how it drives. But so XPeng, have had great sales success over the last year. Yeah. They had a bit of a down period about 3 years ago where things weren't going very well. They've changed their management, they've changed their design, they've changed their cars. And now they brought out this P7, which looks like something out of the future. It's a fabulous looking car.
Oh, nice. I've just found pictures of it. Okay.
Yeah, very kind of iconic, of future looking. And this, for me, captures the XPeng of 5 years ago. I was going to say the XPeng of old, but it's not that old. They're only about 10 years old as a company. But it really captures kind of a sophistication in the Chinese automakers, which I think they have been lacking before. This car has some pretty cool, neat features where you can use your voice to control it from outside the car. So you can get out the car, tell it to drive backwards into a parking space. You can you can tell the car to open your boot without pressing any buttons or anything. Wow. It can hear you from anywhere around the car. But it doesn't go, over the top with, karaoke microphones or silly gimmicks that people don't really use. And it feels much more like a European car, or a car that definitely European consumers or Western consumers or consumers from outside of China are really going to like. And I think the looks really make it stand out against the competition. We've shot the review. We're doing the editing right now. It will be coming out next Tuesday, but I don't know when this podcast is coming out. It's coming out very soon, basically.
Yeah, I think it's the day after. I think this goes out next Monday, I think. So
it should be the day after this. Yeah.
But then
very impressive.
Because Jack's done an episode about the P7, but is this an updated version?
Yes.
Okay, that explains.
My very first video for the Fully Charged show, as it was known before, was the XPeng P7, the first one. That was my first ever video.
Right.
Back in 2020, I think it was.
Right.
So Jack reviewed that one when it came over to the UK or the Netherlands, and I said, "This is the upgraded model."
It does look noticeably different. I mean,
it's completely new, completely new. Yeah. So, and I like it because it shows a maturity in the Chinese brands that they don't have to have wacky designs. They don't have to go crazy. They can actually just make a really well designed, well built, sophisticated car, and it should sell really well. We don't know the price yet, but it should sell really well.
I mean, certainly I'd heard of Chery as a car brand long before BYD, XPeng, Xiaomi, all the other dozens of them.
Yeah,
I was certainly familiar with that name. I don't know that I actually knew, or I certainly hadn't driven one of their cars, but I knew of it.
Chery's a very, very interesting case study. I mean, I'd briefly tell you a bit of the history because they were a little bit naughty when they started. So back in the maybe 90s, the only way you could sell cars in China was to be run by a state-owned company, so basically government-run, and only those companies could produce cars. So Chery kind of set up and said, no, we're just a parts supplier. We just supply parts.
Right.
And they kind of sneakily imported in old Seat, I can't remember, the Seat Leons or something from the 90s from Spain as the kind of knockdown kits, and just said, oh no, we're just importing parts. Then they built them all in China and started selling them. And the government were like, what are you doing? Yeah. Oh, we're just selling cars now. So they were actually the first kind of private company to sell cars.
Wow.
And all based on this like kind of knockdown kit, Seat Leon, which they imported in a kind of grey area. And now they've become, the biggest exporter in China. So it's very interesting story.
Yeah. God, I mean, that transitionary period in Chinese history is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? How you adjust from complete state control of absolutely everything to sort of, they're not completely hands-off, but they're massively more hands-off than they were, 25, 30 years ago.
There's still a hand hovering around there, just in case, but it's also that hand's also pushing them to say, come on,
get on with it.
Yeah. And eventually 90% of you will probably fail, but we'll be left with the really strong 5 or whatever.
The story really of Xiaomi cars fascinates me because of Apple and also Dyson here, the various attempts of companies with a lot of money to make a new electric car, and they've flopped out, but So just quickly, Xiaomi is one of the biggest phone companies in the world. I mean, they must be.
That's right. Yeah, so number one. Yeah, they're primarily a mobile phone manufacturer, but they've expanded into lots of other things. They do loads of home appliances, kettles, fridges, the whole lot now. But they primarily do mobile phones, so they're a tech company. Yeah, and they decided after Apple said they were not going to build their iCar or whatever it's going to be called.
Yeah,
Xiaomi said, "Oh, we'll do it." And it's been an absolutely rip-roaring success. I don't think even we thought it would be that successful. So they've only brought out one car up until recently, the sedan, that SU7. Right. And then they had the SU7 Ultra, which went to the Nürburgring and it beat every car in the world and, all these records and stuff. And then they brought out their YU7 SUV in June or July this year.
Right.
And they sold something like 100,000 units in about an hour. And if I went into a Xiaomi shop today and their factory's at full capacity, they're producing about 30,000 cars per month.
Wow.
I would have to wait a year before I could get my car. And this is a car that's just come out a month ago.
Right.
So it's been a huge success, and it's really taking up the slack where I think Tesla's been lacking in innovation recently.
Yeah.
There hasn't been much in the way of new from Tesla, not much in the way of innovation from Tesla. And so Xiaomi's really taken up that slack and said, well, we're bringing like this tech-focused car which connects to your home, your phone, and everything else. Affordable price point, looks great, and it's built for the Chinese market. And so people have been lapping it up. Wow. And they, at the moment, they're just like, well, we're just going to focus on the domestic market. We're not too concerned about overseas yet, although I've heard rumors that Europe's probably next. So we might find out if they're going to expand into Europe next year. But they've been so successful, and to have a waiting list that big is incredible.
Yeah, but the technological achievement of being a phone manufacturer and kettles and fridges, And then, I think you could say that like a good student engineering group could build a car that could go in a straight line really fast.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I can understand that achievement very clearly, and I could probably be a minor member of that team. But to make a car go around the Nürburgring at the speed they have and it not fall to bits, skid off, the road holding, the capability of that car is as advanced as anything. It's beaten. It's set a completely new record, isn't it?
Yeah. I think if there was any doubt that Chinese automakers were not producing good cars, or they just produced, white goods, I think is what Jeremy Clarkson once said. I think that's been completely smashed now. And I think, and if there were any automaker executives who are still asleep, who are not taking it seriously, well, that car smashing around the Nürburgring in 7-point-something minutes, I think actually woke them up, because here's a really kind of halo car for a brand. It costs about £70,000. You can buy it on the street here.
Wow. The same one? The high performance one?
Yeah. It's called the SU7 Ultra. It's about £70,000. We drove it on the show.
You drove it.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. And it's 70 grand. So it's going after that BMW M5 market or the M3 market. And people are like, oh, this is the car we really want. We can't quite afford it. So we get a slightly lower one. But this is, they're just taking a leaf out of the German automakers, book, It's a win on Sunday, sell on Monday. It's exactly the same thing.
Wow.
So, a big shock to the system for everyone, including the other Chinese automakers.
I'm sure, yes. They must have been freaked out by that.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's one of the topics I really wanted to cover with you is the maturing, I suppose, in the biggest, widest terms of the Chinese automotive industry, which in the last, say, 10 years, just spawned so many companies, so many different... Well, we saw it at the motor show. Just staggering amounts of... the one I loved was we both walked into a hall the size of Leicestershire, and there were just dozens of cars. And you said it was all one brand, but they're just different things. That it's getting your head around that is hard enough. But there were a staggering array of things. But is that one of the things that we know happened, particularly in America, when they started making cars? So we're talking over 100 years ago. There were thousands of companies that no one's heard of now. And it ended up with really two, I suppose, in the end.
Essentially.
2.5. Yeah.
And I think the Chinese, the market is about to go through that pain. They're feeling the pain already. There's been allegedly rumors of like layoffs at a lot of companies. Companies are not paying suppliers for either 90 days or 6 months, late wages and everything else. So the car companies are feeling the pain. They're still hiding it at the moment. But, if you've got lackluster sales now in China and you don't have the cash to go overseas, then your days are numbered. And I think we're going to see in the next 6 months some fairly big brands go under. Maybe they'll be rescued by a legacy automaker, or maybe the other way around. It's yet to be seen. But everyone is experiencing a lot of pain at the moment. So I do worry. We've seen that Geely, for example, they shut one of their new brands, their Jidu brand. It was a self-driving car, lots of investment, lots of money, and they just closed it down. I think the start of this year, and that's Geely, and they have a lot of brands. Not all of them have been very successful. So you have to wonder, what's the strategy going forward? You can't keep on investing. You can't keep on bringing out new models. And I think we have actually seen a bit of a slowdown since the motor show. And the motor show didn't have anything like outstanding like it did 2 years ago. There's lots of new cars, but there's nothing like, oh, amazing, this is groundbreaking, apart from perhaps Xiaomi. And I think we're starting to see that slowdown now. And to try and counteract that slowdown, they're expanding overseas in a huge way. So I know in Australia, for example, they've seen, or New Zealand, they've seen the Radar, that SUV, that pickup brand just launched from Geely. SAIC have just brought out the IM brand into Australia, I think. So they're all desperately scrabbling to go overseas, but that's not a huge high sale market either.
No, Australia is a small market. By car sales standards. Southeast Asia is like 500 Australias, isn't it? It's just sort of, it's because it's going to partly be sort of not necessarily global, but certainly national economic shifts in China's economy. I mean, I know it isn't what the great thing is, China's economy has reduced the growth rate, like it's but it's 10 times more than any growth rate we've ever witnessed anywhere else on the planet. It's gone down a bit, but I mean, it has certainly diminished, hasn't it, in the last couple of years?
Yeah, for sure. And no one really knows the true situation, but, seeing things on the ground here, you see that, people are struggling. The economy has definitely slowed down. People are less cautious about spending money. So automakers have had to lower their prices.
Yeah.
So there's pain amongst the population with the economy. We don't really know what's the true picture, but things have been better in the past, and we're definitely on a bit of a slowdown at the moment, I would say.
Yeah, but it's on such a colossal scale.
Yes.
I mean, the other thing I know we did mention was, the installation of renewables.
Yes.
That doesn't feel like that slowed down. I mean, that's incredible changes and developments in that area. Well, I mean, the one statistic I can remember is last year, China installed more solar in 1 year than America has ever installed in its entire history. And America came up with
I know.
Effectively started making solar panels, whatever it was, 40, 50 years ago for NASA. And
And you think, well, if that slows down a bit, it's like, well, okay, we installed the same capacity as the whole of the European Union instead of the whole of America. And that's the slowdown. So
it is on a big scale.
Yeah.
No, it is. But then, okay, because the other thing that I find really interesting is having had the privilege of interviewing Jim Farley from Ford a couple of times, and him being incredibly honest and open about his reaction when he first went to China, I think 2021, wasn't it? I think it was very soon after.
Yeah.
And he just said they're 10 years ahead of us in electric vehicles and all that. But their recent announcement that they're going to, they're spending billions on that.
Yes.
But one of the little facts I found out, which I don't remember ever talking to you about, is there is an electric Ford Bronco.
Okay.
Have you not come across? Because so there's Ford make a fully electric Ford Bronco. It's really popular. You can only buy it in China, so it's made in China.
Oh, I probably should have known that.
Well, I mean, as when I read it, I went, I've got to ask Elliot about it, because I am hoping the report I read was genuine, but I'll dig it out.
Wow, okay. I mean, I've seen the Ford Bronco around. I'm not a big SUV fan, but that does look quite cool.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's one of the cooler looking.
Yes.
If you're going to go there, that's a good.
Yeah, exactly. Good on Ford, because they can either sit on their hands and just wait for inevitable decline and and whatever happens. But they've really, him being very open, and especially with you on the podcast, I have to say that
it was extraordinary. Yeah.
That clip of you and Jim Farley went viral in China. Everyone speaks
really?
about that.
Oh, that's interesting. Right. Wow.
Oh, is that the Robert who spoke to Jim from Ford? I was like, yes, that Robert. That's how you're known now.
Oh my
God. So, they do have to be competitive, and Ford have always filled in that gap in the market, haven't they? They've always had things like the Ford Fiesta, good quality, affordable, normal car. And there hasn't really been much of that from many of the Chinese automakers, or much in the way of legacy automakers, especially in terms of EV. So if Ford can tap into that market and do a really good job, then they do stand a good chance. I don't think they'll do particularly well in China. They never sold very well here.
No.
They've never really sold here very well.
Right.
It's strange.
But they have been present in the Chinese market, though, in the past.
Yeah, they have. I think the biggest seller here was probably the Mustang, the new Mustang.
Right.
So yeah, I think fingers crossed they get it right, because it's important that there's a US automaker who is championing smaller, more affordable EVs.
Yes. Yeah.
There aren't many others, so hopefully it goes well for them. If they're learning from China, then they should do quite well.
But that whole, I really don't want to talk about the current, the current administration in America. But what is fascinating is we can talk about the Chinese market, Chinese car manufacturers, European market, what's happening with Chinese cars coming here, and just not mention America at all, because it's just not relevant to a really huge global industry. That's what's extraordinary. Which was never the case historically. I mean, in our lifetimes, that's never been the case. It's been America number one,
Yeah.
So that's been...
But it's it's literally shifted in the last year, 2 years maybe.
Yes, it does feel like, yes, it didn't just shift as soon as who got into it. Was already happening, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think China's been quite smart. There's been a lot of kind of soft culture, I think, spreading overseas. So it's not just the cars and things, but the popularity of China is growing overseas, and we're seeing more and more Chinese influence in what they're doing. I think you were talking about the BYD Dolphin Surf launch.
Yeah.
On one of our 3 other recordings. Yeah. Have we spoken about this yet? I can't remember. And you mentioned that in the morning was for like the YouTubers, the more traditional auto journalists, and then the afternoon and evening was for the TikTokers and the Instagrammers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a very Chinese way of spreading news about a car. And it's very smart. So these young influencers have millions of followers. They produce a 30-second video, get millions of views, and have quite a young demographic. And that's what the new BYD is kind of aimed for. But it's these kind of Chinese marketing strategies that are coming into an overseas market and just shaking up everything. So the way we do things, I guess, has been based on kind of a Western way of doing things for quite a long time. But companies like BYD are changing that and changing that narrative. So I didn't think it would happen that quickly.
Right.
Cars is one element of it, but it's so pivotal and it's happening so quickly. And when we get to the end of the current US administration, and perhaps things change, who knows?
Yeah.
And maybe the borders open up again and tariffs go away, whatever happens. And then maybe they start getting Chinese EVs into the country. That will be worrying, because I think Americans will probably think, hey, these cars are really, really good.
Yeah.
Why haven't we had these? I think they might get a bit of a shock. And
I'm sure you've seen it, but many of the comments on episodes you do for us are from Americans who are going, oh, I can't watch anymore. It's breaking my heart. Yes. I know I'll never be able to get this in America. Variants on that. I wish we could get that here. Oh my God, why can't we get that here? Can I smuggle one in from Mexico? That was one of my favorite comments.
Yes. But it'd be interesting to see what happens in Canada. So we have the show in Canada coming up in a short amount of time, right? And there's a lot of talk around them ditching this rule that America has as well, that not importing Chinese cars. If they ditch that rule, then all of these automakers will flood that market, and there'll be this kind of pincer movement around America. They'll be surrounded by Chinese cars that they can't get.
Yeah. Because I know BYD are big in Mexico, aren't they? But are there other Chinese makers that are selling there?
Almost all of them. So I think Great Wall Motors are there in a big way. JAC, they these big kind of state-owned companies who we don't really know that much of in Europe, but they're there in Mexico, Brazil, in a huge amount, in a huge way. I think they're selling, I can't remember the stat, but they're now selling more BYD cars in Brazil than they are GM cars. And I think there's a GM factory in Brazil.
Right.
GM have been the best-selling car there for 40 years or something.
Right. Wow.
But already within 2 years, BYD is the biggest seller.
两位英国博主的对话，以外来者的视角勾勒出中国汽车产业的真实图景。它既有上海经营街头的繁华，也有乡村5G全覆盖的扎实；既有苇渡科技集悦昙花一现的残酷，也有小鹏小米理念革新、科技翻盘的韧性；既有宁德时代$10电池的技术突破，也有比亚迪全球市场扩张的底气。从产业层面看，中国汽车的破局并非偶然，全民渗透的电动化基础为产业提供了最广阔的市场，残酷的洗牌机制倒逼企业聚焦核心技术，全产业链的协同创新让低成本、快迭代成为核心优势。这种市场加技术加产业链的三重驱动，不仅让中国汽车在全球市场实现反超，更重塑了全球汽车产业的竞争格局。过去欧美车企凭借品牌与技术垄断市场，如今中国车企以技术创新加性价比的组合拳，让苹果戴森羡慕小米，让福特通用不得不服。从未来趋势看，中国汽车产业的挑战与机遇并存。一方面，国内市场饱和期临近，海外市场贸易壁垒仍在，部分车企仍面临资金紧张、技术瓶颈的问题。另一方面， 钠离子电池、智能驾驶、车网互联等技术的突破，以及东南亚、中东等新兴市场的开拓，为中国汽车提供了再上一层楼的空间。正如其中一位博主所言，最终90%的企业会失败，但剩下的将会是非常强大、根基稳固的企业。这些存活的企业或将成为全球汽车产业的新巨头，而这或许就是两位英国博主在上海街头大开眼界的本质。他们看到的不只是一个现代化的中国，更是一个正在定义未来的中国。